congratulations on the film. I mean, it is such a tightrope walk of sort of agonizing comedy and a family nightmare, and I really enjoyed it. And there is this strong sense of sort of panic and the frantic sort of running through it, which made me think of I suppose it's like a nerve shredder in the same way as Uncut Gems was. And I wondered if that was the sort of effect that you were aiming for.
Well, thank you. And thank you for that comparison, because that's obviously, well, I guess it's not obvious. That's definitely a movie I love. And I love the Safdie Brothers. I think I hadn't actually seen Uncut Gems when we shot Shiva Baby, because we shot the August of 2019 and that movie came out December of 2019. So we were already sort of in the works, but I definitely felt encouraged to see such a Jewish, anxious movie on screen that wasn't, necessarily a horror movie, but and Uncut Gems definitely had way higher stakes, but I couldn't breathe, as most people, had that experience. So yeah, it wasn't a direct influence, but it definitely makes me feel excited to be telling a similar story.
And the focus is very much on Danielle, who's the central character, with her insecurities and all the secrets that she's got, but it's also very much an ensemble piece as well. I mean, was that how you saw it?
Definitely. Yeah. I think, knowing that it was going to be such a limited, creative story with one house and one day, it felt, I think I always knew it was going to hopefully be like a fun cast of characters, especially because, it's been inspired by my experiences at family gatherings over the years. I wanted to be able to have as many small characters and insert moments and lines that I feel like I've been writing down for years from these events into the movie. So yeah, it's definitely an ensemble, and I think everyone plays a part in her downfall for sure.
So how did you get the cast to work together as a group, or did you actually kind of just leave it to them to get on with?
Well, we didn't have any rehearsal time, so that did sort of just change. That made it kind of slightly spontaneous, and that we just had to sort of throw it together. Pretty much they're amazing. Everyone is very talented, even though they all have very different backgrounds. Like Fred is, comes from a very, sticks to his theater training, word for word, memorizes every and ah, is perfectly on cue. And like Molly Gordon, who plays Maya, never says the same line twice. So it was a learning experience to sort of adjust to each actor. But they all got along very well. And, the only thing we could do is read their lines and the scenes out loud for the first time when they were in hair and makeup. And our hair and makeup room was also our production office. It was also our costumes room, and everyone, like in the movie itself, everyone even upstairs was bumped up against each other and moving around. So the actors would be reading their lines aloud together, and we'd be figuring out if certain lines worked or if we need to rewrite things or replace words as they were having like their hair pulled in one direction and like the costume person is like putting on their shoes. So that was the way we could make it work together. But everyone was so down for the cause of an indie movie and put in a lot of extra time, or maybe I don't know, it seemed like they did, because they understood we had limited time and were willing to think together when certain things weren't working, to make it work between everybody together. So they're all wonderful, and they all kind of held my hand a little bit through this process, because obviously pretty much all of them except for Rachael were extremely experienced and seasoned compared to me. So, their help was pivotal.
It sounds a bit like it was organized chaos, really. But as you mentioned, it's a low budget film. And I wondered if that was actually an actual house that you were filming in rather than a set, because it does look incredibly cramped and everybody's bumped up against each other. And if it was an actual house, that must have been very difficult filming.
Yeah, it was a house. It was definitely a house. And I think the crew, unfortunately, our gaffers and our G&E and our PAs were 10, if not 20 times sweatier and bumped up against each other and stressed than what you're seeing on screen from our cast and our mourners and our background. It was very difficult. I think, you know, thankfully we had a lot of time in the house beforehand for me and my cinematographer and our assistant director creating the schedule and our producers to like just like list every shot and come and fully all together be on the same page about what we needed from each scene. And you know, that informed the schedule because we also had limited time with these actors, and it was difficult because we would want scenes, you know, to go from like one shot to go from one room to another. And they were like, well, first of all, we can't afford extras in 3 different rooms on the same day. And also Diana and Polly and Fred and you know, Rachel are not all there on that day, so we can't do that. So it was difficult working in a house, but the homeowners were so lovely that they gave us so much access to it. So it made it a little bit easier because we could spend as much time there as we needed to figure things out. We found the house off Airbnb, and it was a very lovely couple who just were like, oh yeah, shoot a movie in our house. And we were like, okay. We didn't go through Airbnb, we met them and then we figured it out on the sidelines, which is sort of a film school trick. But yeah, so it was a very real house, yeah.
And with all that to contend with, there's one character who I suspect might have complicated it even more, and that's the baby. I mean, what was it like having a baby on the set? Because you can't tell them what to do.
Oh my God. That was probably the hardest thing. Yeah, I don't know how that didn't come up. Yeah, the first thing was the house and, you know, no money and etc. And then the next thing was the baby. Our lovely baby Edgar, who is in drag playing Rose. He was, you know, most of me, my producers, my DP, like most of the people on our crew were like in their early to mid 20s and don't know anyone with a baby. So we were like, does anyone know a baby? Like, we definitely weren't going to go to a baby casting agency. We were like, hello. So it was like someone's friend's baby, like a coworker's baby. And he was wonderful, but you know, it was very stressful. And the first day we worked with him was the day, like the climax when, you know, Kim is trying to hand off the baby to Rachel, and then the, you know, vase crashes and the sea doors fall. And that was the first time we worked with the baby. And it was Diana's first scene and her first time on set at all. So she was holding the baby and he wouldn't stop crying. Yeah, I don't know, when that happens, you just sort of have to be like, this is all gonna go to shit and whatever. Like, you just have to sort of accept that.
Go with it.
It'll be okay. You just have to work with it. Like, there's literally nothing you can do. And scenes had to be rewritten to accommodate him. And I think by the 5th day with him, we were like, okay, let's think about this. We know Edgar a little bit now. But it was definitely nerve-wracking. I was like, are we gonna be able to shoot any of these scenes? Because he was so loud that it was going over all the audio. And I was like, is this all gonna have to be ADR'd, you know, like where we just recorded after? Like, but thankfully it worked out. And he's a trooper because it was very, very sweaty, especially the scene in the van. It was very hot in that van. I was like, are we torturing this baby? Like, is this bad? And the answer is yes.
He's a real pro. I wish we could talk about this more because it sounds like a total obstacle course, but we're out of time, unfortunately. But thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely to talk to you about the film, and like I say, thoroughly enjoyed the film. So thank you very much for that.